Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the SITREP, the situation report or the summary for the day of 871 to 873 for the 13th to the 15th of July. And there is no more, I didn't add any more things from the point of my recording of the Frontline Changes report, which is published on the main channel. So there is a lot of Frontline Changes. So do check it out on the main channel. I will put the link, of course, at the very end of this video, so you will actually be able to just click and watch it. And anyway, we'll go into the strategy and tactical reporting in the situation report. And the first thing first, of course, is the MiG-29. So on the 15th of July, the Russian Defense Ministry reported the shooting down of a Ukrainian MiG-29. It's amazing that the Ukrainians still have an air force 2 years into the conflict. So clearly, I have underestimated the Ukrainians. In the first year of the war, that I believe that their entire air force has been wiped out. But somehow, Ukraine is such a huge country. It was a former Soviet state. They have a lot of mothball aircraft. And of course, then the rest of NATO were giving up all their Soviet planes and buying up the rest of the Soviet planes from the rest of the world to feed it to Ukraine. So but I wonder where they find all the pilots. So that's one of the things that I don't really understand as much as I would love to. So over at Sumy, there's some fighting returning to the Sumy region. This fighting is reported on the 14th. All they are all one-off. It's very similar to the previous time. The attack on Sumy was also just a one-off attack. So there is fighting reported at Konstantinivka, over at this is Zurivka, I think, Zuravka, correct? And then there's another one over at Myropilia. So the various locations, and we have also seen previous clusters of attack in this area here, previous times. So, but this is not this time. So yeah, let me delete the way this. So there is a bit interesting that the Russians are attacking, and according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, they have been reporting a lot of shelling, a lot of artillery shelling and airstrikes in the Sumy region by the Russian forces. I'm not sure if this is a precursor to any form of a major offensive in the Sumy region. It might be, but it might not be as well. We can't tell at this moment. So there is no clear indication that the Russians will start some major offensive in the Sumy region. I will just not imagine that to be the case for now. Over at the Kharkiv front. So at the Kharkiv front, over at there's a Budi, there is a Russian airstrike on a train over at Budi. So Budi is over here. There is a train track around here. There is an airstrike on the train or the train station, and allegedly Ukrainian military equipment was hit by tactical ballistic missiles. Over at the Lipsy sector, Russian forces continue to push over at Klipoke and the Lipsy sector, and there is also shelling or attacks over at Mali Prokodi. So the fighting is reported all the way through 15. So all 3 days, in the past 3 days, there is fighting reported in this region. The Russians continue to put pressure, but it looks like it's just pressure. Nothing else about this. We move on away. Over at the Voschansk region, we have fighting reported at Stadisia. I think this is a one-off. It was reported on the 13th and the 14th. So around 2 days. It was not mentioned on the 15th. Geolocation, not geolocation. Ukrainians have, of course, given up this gray zone as mentioned in the Frontline Changes report. And the Russian forces are still conducting their attacks on the Ukrainians over in the Battle of Voschansk in the northern half of the city. There's an airstrike reported, geolocated in the southern part, so clearly showing the Ukrainians are still determined to hold the position. Russians also attack over at Taike, as well as shelling or attacking of Voschanski Kotori over at that area. Geolocation of Russian forces show that the Russians have more advanced position in the north of Taike. So that's about it. So in the Voschansk Kotori region, it looks like the Russians are putting a lot of pressure on Taikei region. This geolocation shows that the Russians have some very pretty advanced position in the Taikei region, and they are already starting to bombard Voshansky Kotori. So there is a river here, I think, if I'm not wrong. Let me check the map. So yeah, south of Taikei there is this river. The river here. So this river is definitely, you know, putting it will make the Ukrainians a bit more stressed about, you know, resupplying, and particularly the bridge was already destroyed by the Russian forces previously. So the Ukrainians probably have some other crossings to use to provide this reinforcement. And Taikei cannot be lost because it's on the high ground, and if the Russians take it, the Ukrainians will probably never take it back again. So that's one big serious considerations that the Ukrainians would have. As you can see, this Taikei is all on the high ground, and they are overlooking the low grounds in the southern part of the river. So yeah, it's just not that good, you know, for the Ukrainians to lose that position. We move on. Battle of Voschansk is really nothing much to talk about. So I saw a message saying that there is a lot of conflicting mapping about Voschansk. I can tell you this is the best mapping there is, you know, because I did it myself. It is the best mapping. So the Ukrainian and Russian mapping is very, very similar. It's almost the same. So not much difference. Generally, the Ukrainians have a salient or some kind of a bulge within the northern half of Voschansk, and they have some river crossings that they use to resupply and reinforce their forces. They don't really do much resupplying through this main one. If they do, of course, it's at their own risk, and then they will travel around this area and particularly go into the high-rise zone. High-rise zone is very, very short out, so I'm not sure if it's survivable to be there. Russian forces still have aggregate plant, and they have a strong, very, very strong position along the entire street surrounding this high-rise zone. The Russians are not exactly in the southern peninsula region around the Voschan River, because that is basically, you know, too near to the southern shore. Ukrainian forces, of course, are holding positions around there. So this is pretty much a gray zone. Clearly, troops will go in and out around this area here. So this is the current situation. Ukrainians previously have tried to attack in this eastern part. Didn't go very far. The Russians have basically pushed back a little bit around here. So it is pretty much a stalemate right now in the Voschansk region, in the Battle of Voschansk, exactly what the Russians want. So the Russians want to trap the Ukrainian forces here to fight in the pointless battle and grind away their effective troops, because you need well-trained troops to fight in urban warfare. So untrained troops die very fast in the urban warfare setting. So that's what the Russians want to do against the Ukrainians. So that is what it is. Over at the Kupiansk region, at the Kupiansk front, there is two sectors. We have the northern part, maybe the Sinkivka sector, and then you have the southern part, or over at the Pishan sector. In the northern sector, the Russian forces are attacking Sinkivka region. They are attacking the area of Vishana and probably towards Petropavlivka. Because the Ukrainian Defense Ministry mentioned Vishana on the 13th, but otherwise the reports always mentioned Petropavlivka usually. The Russians are putting pressure on Sinkivka all the time, but the last it was reported on the 13th. I think I may have missed maybe 14. I can't remember. So, but there is but the fighting here, as you guys who have been following for a long time should know, that, you know, don't expect much things to be happening around here. Russian forces are geolocated in the forest in the north, confirming our front line is most likely correct, and most likely is based on the Ukrainian mapping. That is the one that is accurate. We move to the southern half. Before we go there, there is according to frontline changes, as I already mentioned in the frontline changes report, Ukrainian forces claim that they have retaken Timkovka. So I'm not sure when this happened or if it even happened. So take it with a pinch of salt for now. That there is a possibility that so there is a massive gray zone over there. Over at this Pishane region, this is one of the major news over the past 24 hours. Russian forces have entered into southern Pishane, and they have basically captured most of the southern half. And the attack also occurs over at the Baivka region and the Berestove region, and this is the current situation around here. There is a lot of Ukrainian defenses around here, particularly some heavy trenches, and the terrain is pretty much pretty good for defending, I guess. A lot of tree lines and forests, so it's not going to be easy place to fight in. So I think the Russians will have their work cut out for them. So otherwise, it is a surprise that the Russians managed to enter Pishani over the past 24 hours. So that's about it. We will continue to monitor and see whether the battle can be ended in a very, very fast manner. But as you can see, in this area here in the Kupiansk front, the advance here has caused this front line all the way to the Oskil River to be the shortest point in a long time. So it's just under 10 kilometers from the river. So 10 kilometers is a long way. It's a long distance in today's warfare in the Ukraine war. So but if the Russians can close up these 10 kilometers, they will cut the Ukrainian forces into half between the Kupiansk front and the Svetove front. So I think it's a pretty tantalizing prospect for the Russians, but I don't think the Russians are going to do it. The Russians are not very interested in pushing. Over at the Novosibirsk region, Russian forces are reportedly attacking, and over at Stemakivka as well. There is no news regarding the Battle of Stemakivka, so just take it with a pinch of salt. So moving further south of the Svetove front, there is a Ukrainian claims that they are actually next to Serhievka. So rather than the previous mapping that we have, they are claiming a much more advanced position at Serhievka. So main feature here is this entire forest that they are claiming to have taken. So this changed the tactical outlook around here. So but we shall see. The battles here are all very small, so it's nothing much to really talk about. Over in the northern half of the Crimea front, Russian forces are attacking towards Kharkivka and Makiivka, and they are also fighting reported. And there's also fighting reported at Nevsky, and geolocation of Russian forces invalidated some part of the Ukrainian front line. So there is this massive arrow push in this direction. So that's about it. Generally, I don't expect much changes around here. Of course, at Makiivka, we already have the Battle of Makiivka starting. We do not know what is the current situation right now with the Russians making such a massive punch, cutting the village or town into two. So we're still waiting for more information to appear. Over at the Crimea front, Russian forces are attacking at Terny, at Torske, and at Dibrova. So Ukrainian forces have a probable more advanced position over in the Serbiansky forestry, marking some kind of success around there, whereas the Russians have their some frontline change over at Torske. So as I already mentioned in the frontline changes report, I don't want to rehash the same thing again. So over at the Sivers front is getting really busy right now. Shelling is reported at Serbianka. Russian forces attacking at Bilhorivka. Frontline changes. Ukrainians have claimed back certain territory in the south of the Chok Quarry. Russian forces attacking at Vykomokanyamsky, Sperne, Vimka. There is some attacks reported towards Zvanivka, and there is fighting reported at Rozdolivka and Perizny, and Russian forces geolocated. Is it Russian forces geolocated? No, it's Ukrainian forces. Shelling by Russians. Oh, so this is wrong color. So Ukrainian forces geolocated just off Fedorivka, confirming that the Ukrainian forces still have a defensive position north of Sakoyi Vasati. So they are still safe there right now. So as you can see, this very activated the front line here. The entire front here is very, very busy. So we'll definitely see how it goes. I think the main push, I think Volkanovka to Spurny is pretty much a pressure point to draw Ukrainian forces in, whereas the main push is over at Vimka and Rosolivka direction. This is where the main push is. Bilohorivka is similarly is just a pressure point to draw Ukrainian forces into this area here. You need to do this because to that's how you pull your enemy into an envelopment or an encirclement, though this is a trap. But if you don't react to the threat that the Russians are posing, then the Russians will make progress as well in the basically main front push. So the Ukrainians don't have a lot of choices unless they are able to do their own offensive. But no, but they do not have the capability right now. Over the Bakhmut front, in the northern flank, we have Russian forces attacking over the Zaliniansky region and at Krychorivka. Krychorivka has been reported on all 3 days, 13, 14, 15. Zeleniansky is only one time on the 13th. So this push at Zeleniansky definitely is not very significant. The Krychorivka is more significant because it's part of this main push in the center flank. Where the Russians are attacking and pushing over Klanina, they are pushing Chasivya, and over in the Ivanivsky region. So Krychorivka is pretty much in the same sector of battle around here. But as I mentioned before, I don't believe the Russians have intention to go into Chasivya itself. They're definitely just drawing Ukrainian forces into this area here, pretty much as a diversion attempt away from the Avdiivka front. So we shall see how this develop. Over in the southern flank, the Russian forces are attacking at Klishevka region and Andriivka. Not much details about this. There's no updates regarding the front line over at Klishevka to suggest that the Russians have captured the entire Klishevka clearly. No evidence yet. There is some fighting reported in the direction of Proteshny, according to the Russian Defense Ministry. Probably just some shelling report. So that's it. We move into the New York front. As New York front, we have two offensive going on. We have the Russian offensive, the Torres offensive, and the Russian attack towards New York. So of course, this entire thing is just the New York front. And over the Torres sector, the Russian forces, I think I zoom out a bit. Russian forces are attacking in Druzhba, Pivnishne, in 2 different regions in the north and the south. There's fighting reported at Zalizne as well as Pivdane, and there's shelling reported at Toretsk. And there's some changes, particularly in the Druzhba Pivnishne region. Russian forces are making this push down the railway line. So I mentioned in the frontline changes report about the Russians' probable intention to follow all the way through with the railway line, and if they can continue to go through, I think they will still mess up the Ukrainians' defensive posture. In the Zalizny region, Russian forces are expanding they have attacked into Zalizny coming from with a hook coming from the south. So not exactly coming through the center like I imagined, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter in terms of the frontline change because the Russians will have firm control around this area anyway, given the location of their forces. Pivdevny, there's some fighting report on the 14th, according to Deep State UA. They made some mapping changes, but the mapping changes pretty much is the same place as our frontline change. So not much have changed around here. There is some stupid amount of trenches around here, so I think the Russians will just go around it. There's no reason to fight through the trenches. And over in the New York region, the New York Battle of New York is still ongoing, but there is no news regarding what is happening right now. In this area here, there's no news. So which means that if the Russians are still pushing in this area, the next update will be a big frontline change. So the past 3 days, there's no updates. It's hard to say what is happening around there. Over in the south of this, just off Novoselivka, Russian forces expanded their foundation for this entire massive push deep into New York by pushing towards Alexandropil in this westerly direction. So I expect the Russians to continue to get firm control until they reach Alexandropil. Over at the Avdiivka front, in the northern flank of the Avdiivka front, Russian forces are attacking at Kalinove. This is just on the 13th, so it's just a one-off. They attack at Novo Alexandrivka Vodyzenka, Timofeyevka, Luzovetsky, progress towards Voschev, and Yekhanivka, and in the area of Voshod. So you can see where the real push is. The real push is in this direction towards Pokrov. So there's not much frontline change around this Vodyzenka, Timofeyevka region. The Russians did not push into the settlement itself. The trenches is still there, it's still intact. I think the Russian forces are regrouping, I believe, in Novo-Alexandrivka, and then they will definitely push out later. Battle of Lozovatsky have not started as well. The main push that are making progress is at Progress, because the name is Progress. So at Progress, the Russian forces have expanded their control over on the eastern part of Progress, and they have also allegedly taken a much more advanced position over at Yekhanivka or Yeganivka, and which means that the Russians are going to start to attack into Vovchev, and they are also attacking into Progress at the same time. In the flank, in the pincer attack, Russian forces geolocated in the rear position in Yekhanivka, so and also in the north, in the forest region north of Sokil. Not very important, but just shows that the Ukrainians are actually also attacking the Russian forces in the rear position. So over in the central flank, we have the Russian forces making more advanced positions over in the Novoselivka Persha region, as well as in Yasnobrodivka. So they are straightening the entire front line, as you can see. They are getting straighter and straighter. And in the Battle of Novoselivka Persha, this is the expected move, because after the Russians push in the north, then they push in the west. In the east. So that makes sense. And then the Russians will probably head from the south and head north, whereas another attack coming from the western part. They can go from many directions if they have this initiative and on their side. Whether the Ukrainians are able to hold a position is anyone's guess right now. So because Ukrainians are getting stretched in so many places, I have no idea whether they can hold on to any of these positions. So over Yasnobrodivka, Russian forces have advanced a little bit. This is just based on Russian claim, so not exactly confirmed yet. So we just wait and see. And over in the southern flank, we only have fighting reported at Kharkivka. But now this is also just one off on the 15th of July only. I don't think the Russians are going to push. I think they have given up the prospect of taking Kharkivka for now. I think they are just going to hold the line along the river, and that's about it. I think the most they would go for is this peninsula all the way to this isthmus over there. But I don't think that this is a priority right now. They have probably lost too many troops trying to get Kharkivka. So I think they're going to regroup and rethink their strategy, because this is a very advanced position for the Russians to take. So no point to sacrifice their troops for that position when the rest of the front line is not even straightened just yet. So over at the Battle of Krasnohorivka, there is some updates. Ukrainian forces seems to have taken some advanced, some small foothold over in the central west position, whereas the Russians seems to have fully secured the entire western part of the industrial zone, and they have been geolocated to be advancing northward on the western part of the city. So this advance from the western part and on the northern part, this pincer continues, as I mentioned before, and is probably the fastest way to capture the entire city. Right now, the Ukrainians are attacking in the south to disturb. So let's see how this develop in this battle. Russians definitely have the initiative. Over the Konstantinivka sector, Russian forces attacking at Boyeda, over at Paraskovievka and Konstantinivka. There's not much about this. They always say they're fighting, but no, there's not much changes around here. Moving in the south, Russian forces are attacking towards Vodian, but that's usual. We still have we don't have any updates regarding this sector. There is some major frontline, or rather subtle but major frontline changes over at Novomayoske, with the Ukrainians conceding the entire forest area to the Russians. I'm not sure this is recent or have been like this for a long time. And there is also some alleged attack on the Ukrainian forces at Prishestivka. So we shall see how this develop. And we move on over at the Velika Novosibirsk sector. Russian forces are attacking towards Starozeve, probably just shelling, not exactly an assault. They're attacking Makarivka. They have captured Uruzhaine. The Ukrainian sources, Deep State UA and the Russian Defense Ministry both have declared the Russians have captured Uruzhaine. So this is confirmed. Russian forces have captured Uruzhaine and they are now already starting to push for Blahodane. So the Russians are now leapfrogging up and they're going to start new battles and changing the entire tactical situation around this sector. Very, very significant change. The loss of Uruzhaine. Over at the Zaporizhia front, there is a various number of frontline changes. Most of the fighting is actually in the Orikhiv and the Kamsky sector, but so just some coverage of the frontline change. Ukrainians claim Vishneve region. Then they have given up a claim of the area southwest of Mafopil. So these are all in the Huyai sector. Okay, so we go into the Orikhiv sector. At the Orikhiv sector, Russian forces are attacking at Luhivsky, towards Malatomashka, at Robotini, towards Danilivka, towards Novoandrievka, and in the Nesteryanka region. So this is all 3 days combined. So when you put it all together, it does look like some very big things is currently brewing. It's still not the massive offensive that we see in the beginning of the Kharkiv offensive yet, but when you look at it like this, it looks like some kind of a grind or some kind of a preparation work is being underway, and it's ramping up in terms of intensity. It seems some small frontline changes, not very important, north of Kopani. And over at the Kayamsky sector, there's some small frontline change in the south of Malik Shebaki, just some small updates. And then the Russian forces are attacking at Pyatikaki. So, but that's about it. So the Russians are also ramping up actions around this Pyatikaki, Lokove, Zerbianki region. And so this area here seems to be getting more and more active. So we definitely have to take note of that. There's some shelling reported across the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant and Novokoyamka. Russian forces reportedly shelled their position. Not very important though. And then over at the Kherson front. At the Kherson front, there is some weird reports. So the Ukrainian Defense Ministry has reported fighting over at Kozachi Lahire, which is fully under Russian control. So I'm not sure how the fighting come about. So so there is some fighting reported in this area, but what we do have confirmed is that the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that there is fighting on the 14th at Krinky. The Russians reportedly attacked Krinky on the 14th of July. So yeah, that's what happened. Otherwise, if we zoom out a bit, we have a lot of shelling report over at Kherson, Antonivka, Tokarivka, and Ivanivka. And the geolocations, however, is in other areas. There's one, of course, over at Dachi, or the opposite of Dachi at Antonivka. There's one over at Lvove, Ohivka, and Mykolaievka. So there is a lot of shelling. So very typical of the Kherson front is just very, very standoff-ish kind of a battle around here. So not very significant in change. Just a bit weird that there is fighting reported at Kozachi Lahire and the Krinky still exists. No idea why that's the point, but I heard that there's a movie. I'm not sure if it's a paid movie or they did a film or movie on the Krinky story. So I think it's published by the Ukrainian side. I think Ukrainian Defense Ministry maybe. I'm not sure who did the movie. So there's this movie. I'm not going to watch it. No, it's a bit too sad. So yeah. So anyway, thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe, and of course check out the Frontline Changes report if you want just the frontline changes. I cover it a bit more in details in terms of the frontline and some subtle tactical stuff. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next update.